The evening began with my wife, Alana, and me enjoying a meal at an upscale establishment, when suddenly my oldest companion came into view. I subtly informed my spouse that Taryn Landis was approaching. I mentioned he had been my dearest friend since grade 2, but I cautioned her about his reputation as a charmer. Alana softly assured me she would be perfectly fine. I then inquired about Taryn, noting he was the affluent friend I'd spoken of previously. I nodded her way and stood to greet Taryn, who hugged me tightly. The embrace felt a little awkward in such a public setting. Taryn expressed his delight at seeing me, mentioning it had been a while since we'd spent time together. He seemed particularly interested in Alana and asked if she was my beautiful wife. He also mentioned sending a present for our Singapore wedding, hoping we liked it. Alana, quite thrilled, brought up the pickup truck he'd given me and offered a hug. I introduced her to Taryn, clarifying their connection. Taryn then politely but firmly moved me aside to embrace Alana. In her usual outgoing manner, Alana commented on his height and good looks, hugging him a bit longer than I felt was proper for a married woman. Curious about Taryn's presence in Daytona, I asked his reason for being there. Taryn explained he'd bought a condo in the dunes and was currently remodeling it. He mentioned staying at a nearby hotel and coming to this restaurant for dinner alone. Alana, always inquisitive, remarked on his purchase, surprised he was renovating since the units were practically new. She couldn't understand what needed changing. Taryn agreed, explaining the bedrooms felt confined to him, so he seized the chance to acquire a penthouse. He planned to paint and furnish it anew. It was clear Taryn aimed to impress Alana, who was quite materialistic. Despite my decent income and savings, she seemed intent on driving us into financial difficulty. We were celebrating our 3rd anniversary, but her attention fixated on Taryn, which did not go unnoticed by other diners who glanced at me with sympathy. I suggested we focus on each other again as our food arrived. Alana didn't argue, but focused intensely on her steak. Alana insisted Taryn join us, saying my best friend was also her friend. Taryn hesitated, mentioning he didn't wish to intrude on our romantic dinner. However, Alana quickly stepped in, instructing the server to prepare a place for Taryn, who would be joining us. The waiter swiftly complied, and soon Taryn was seated at our table, dominating the conversation. I managed to win a game of solitaire on my phone, while he and Alana talked about various things. I paid little attention until Alana spoke to me. She suggested we had 2 empty rooms and should invite Taryn to stay, allowing us to catch up. Although she mentioned he could try her homemade meals, I suspected she'd order expensive takeout from upscale places instead. I was surprised by her suggestion and doubted Taryn would enjoy her cooking. My first wife, Helen, departed after 22 years of marriage. She and Taryn were close, and I never worried about their bond because Helen was loyal and dependable. Sadly, she died suddenly from a heart attack 5 years ago. I grieved for over a year before meeting Alana at a charity function. Despite an 11-year age gap, we eventually married and have been together for 3 years now. Alana had been divorced before, claiming her first husband cheated. I was committed to never betraying my spouse, and Alana knew it. It seemed Alana easily persuaded Taryn to stay with us, and I suspected her revealing clothes played a role. Taryn didn't need to wake early for work, a luxury for those with millions. Alana hadn't worked since her first divorce and made me sign a prenuptial agreement stating I wouldn't touch her money, regardless of marriage length. This suited me, as I had steady investment income and a good job. When I arrived home Monday night, Alana and Taryn appeared even closer than at the restaurant the previous evening. Dinner was ready and exceptionally delicious, but I noticed the waste bin filled with takeout containers from a local eatery. Taryn and Alana were so absorbed in their own world they didn't even notice when I left the living room, ascended the stairs, and went to bed. Their lack of attention didn't bother me. I was quite astonished when I returned home Wednesday evening to find Alana seemingly waiting. She sat on an expensive couch, which, in my opinion, was a bit too close, especially for a friend. The gentleman she had recently encountered was Taryn. Alana's opening statement was that we needed a serious talk. Again, I was taken aback. It was just an ordinary Wednesday, and I wondered how Taryn had worked his magic so fast. I knew he was skilled in everything he pursued, but this was incredibly impressive, and I knew it would cost me. Alana explained that Taryn and she had found a deep connection, one they hadn't sought but couldn't ignore. She informed me she would divorce me as soon as possible and planned to marry Taryn. She asked me not to try to change her mind, emphasizing she wouldn't relinquish her home and half her savings just because I couldn't remain faithful and Taryn couldn't control his impulses. I responded with a resolve that even surprised me, stating I would contest her every step. Alana, in reply, showed contempt, labeling my reaction typical of an insecure person. She clarified she didn't marry me for wealth and didn't want it in our divorce. Both Taryn and Alana believed the divorce would be smoother if she departed with the assets she brought into the marriage. She demanded if this was enough incentive for a speedy divorce. In a cunning way, I asked where she wanted my signature, knowing money mattered more to her than to me. Alana insisted she would spend the next few nights with Taryn while his apartment was painted, making it clear she wanted no complaints, whining, crying, or grumbling. I simply nodded, turning to head to the nearest bar. It's amazing how quickly a divorce can proceed legally when all three parties are motivated, especially when one is quite rich. A few months later, I was single again. The weekend after the divorce was finalized, I returned to the same eatery where I first met Alana and found Taryn at a small table. I walked over and joined him. Taryn wondered if he should commend me publicly or wait for privacy. I expressed my lack of composure, suggesting I didn't grasp how he could be so cheerful. I mentioned he shouldn't have proposed to Alana, as she could potentially pursue him for various reasons like infidelity, contract breach, outright deceit, or simply being rude. Taryn, in his usual calm manner, assured me such things wouldn't occur. He suggested I wasn't seeing the complete picture and urged me to enlighten him. He also mentioned knowing Alana, describing her as stubborn, vengeful, and quite clever. I asked Taryn with a chuckle if he'd felt differently when he proposed. I asked him to consider what finally made him decide to get rid of her. I admitted I wasn't entirely sure, but mentioned it might have involved her personal trainer seeing her 3 times weekly, and for some reason, that bothered me. I explained that thinking about filing for divorce, even for infidelity, was unappealing because she would have received half of everything plus spousal support. I added that this was why I had sought his help, expressing surprise at his ability to convince her to ask for a divorce by Wednesday. I commented it was incredible and noted his persuasive abilities must have improved. Taryn confessed it had more to do with his portfolio's growth. He explained that once she grasped his immense wealth, she seduced him immediately. He admitted he'd miss her in bed, mentioning that intimacy with my wife had been a life highlight. I stated seriously that her rare ability attracted me to this entire plan. I acknowledged Taryn did an excellent job freeing me from that greedy woman, but I wondered why he didn't care how she'd react to being left without marriage. I suggested she might unravel the entire plan, given her cunning and intelligence. Taryn explained he had the bigger picture in mind when he gave Alana a weekend at the Ritz, complete with a spa day as an engagement gift. I countered, calling him foolish and reminding him that Alana's personal trainer was now a masseuse at the Ritz, raising the chance she might encounter him. Taryn admitted booking the spa for her and shared he'd visited her the previous night to see her delight with his present. He mentioned having a key to the room and his phone set for video. I processed this and inquired if she'd been with her former personal trainer, asking if there was a recording and if she'd betrayed him. I wondered if Taryn had been upset enough to call off the engagement. Taryn replied with a smile, stating Alana was devastated by his firm stance, and it was her first time doing something like that. He assured me it wouldn't happen again. I mentioned I felt the same way as her, unaffected by the current situation. Alana was currently out shopping, returning the presents I'd given her, involving tears and angry exchanges. Taryn added with a big grin that I owed him dinner for convincing her to state she wanted a divorce on Wednesday. I acknowledged his efforts, saying he'd saved me much money and I'd gladly treat him to dinner because he'd always supported me, unlike Alana, who didn't grasp true friendship. Next, a different tale unfolds. I am Frank Grimes, and my wife is Peggy. We've been married for 20 years and have 2 children, Mike and Emma. I'm returning home after dropping Emma off at university, eager to discuss my wife's infidelities spanning 12 years. Her latest romance is the most serious, and now that our children are grown, she wants to depart for her latest partner. As I turn onto our street, I see our house with lights on, indicating she's present. I pull into the driveway, exit the car, open the front door, and step inside. My wife sits on the sofa, looking somewhat nervous, though I've never even raised my voice, let alone my hand. She glances at me, then at 2 suitcases near the entrance. I focus on them too. Peggy, my wife, has just left to take Emma to her initial year of higher education. I'm sitting on the couch, waiting for my lover to collect me. My bags are packed, and I've left Frank a note explaining my departure for another man. But my lover is running late, and I'm anxious about what might happen if Frank gets home first. My current lover is just the newest in a series I've had over the past 12 years, but this one feels special. We're deeply in love. I recall my past relationships during this period. My first lover was my tennis coach at the country club. He was attentive and caring, but he vanished without a trace. Next was a work colleague, and our affair began on a business trip to New York, fueled by excessive drinking. It continued for over 2 years, mostly during company travel and late nights in his office. Then he disappeared, rumored to have run off with a younger woman. After that, an old college friend and I reignited our connection at a charity sale, which lasted 6 months. The most recent affair is with Tom, my best friend's husband. It started with innocent flirting at a barbecue and evolved into a passionate love story. Now I'm waiting for him, but he's delayed, and my anxiety grows. Peggy, were you planning to depart with Tom, or did you plan to inform me about him? I point to a note on the table with my wedding rings placed upon it. Frank picks up the note, drops my rings, and reads it. Dear Frank, as you can see, I left you for another man. It doesn't matter who. I love him, and he loves me. We are going far away. Please don't try to find me. We had a good marriage and good times, but we've grown apart. It's time for us to part ways. Frank reads the note, smiles, and puts it in his briefcase. Then he turns to me and thanks me for the note, saying it will simplify things. He mentions a video of me with Tom in our bed, and I'm stunned. Frank reveals he's known about my infidelities from the beginning and had me under observation. He shares that he eliminated my lovers to maintain a stable family for our children and prevent financial fallout from a divorce. Frank, let me share a little story with you. Back in elementary school, my closest companion was a boy named George Vernon. He was a small child who often faced bullying, but I'd always step in to shield him, even if it meant taking a beating myself. Eventually, the school realized bothering him meant dealing with me, and they disliked the consequences. Our friendship continued through college and remains strong today. George's mother, whose maiden name was Gambini, belonged to the same Gambini family linked to the East Side. She wished to distance herself from the family's illicit activities, so they sent him to a regular high school. In college, he pursued business and law, while I focused on business and accounting. Despite his mother's objections, he later joined the family enterprise. As my investment firm prospered, I began managing their investments, which brought a sense of respectability to their financial dealings. In return, I earned a substantial sum. George had often mentioned owing me a favor, and I eventually called it in when I learned about your professional tennis player. George assured me he could handle it, and soon that player was no longer an issue. I became worried when she appeared unwell, so I fetched a bowl from the kitchen. Similar situations arose with your second and third paramours. Once you became involved with them, I ensured that Mike and Emma retained a mother. Had you not contemplated departing, they still would be alive. She asked, tears streaming down her face. If it was my fault, they were gone. I explained I believed Tom was also deceased. However, I genuinely felt relief she was leaving me for Tom. The children were now in college and didn't require her. Tom was alive and waiting for her. The look of relief etched on her features was remarkable. Did she truly think I'd admit to being cruel to 3 men and let her off the hook? She asked why I hadn't simply permitted her to leave with Tom. I clarified that before she departed, I wanted retribution. I reminded her of our small dog Fifi and how I always cared for her. The meat labeled for dogs only in the freezer came from her previous partners after their demise. So, every time I saw Fifi relieve herself, it reminded me her partners were nothing more than refuse. But that wasn't all. Glute and thigh muscle made excellent steaks, and she had even commented on their deliciousness when I grilled them. I asked her to recall the last time she'd eaten them. This time, she actually vomited, but she missed the bowl on her dressing. I continued, telling her that now she understood. I pressed speed dial on my disposable phone, and 2 large men entered through the front door. I informed her these gentlemen would ensure her rendezvous with Tom, and she could spend the remainder of her life with him, knowing she was accountable for the souls of her former lovers. I bade farewell to Peggy and expressed my hope she would face the consequences. One of the 2 men grabbed Peggy's suitcases while the other escorted her to the waiting car. She didn't utter another sound. As promised, they spent the rest of their lives together, driving in Tom's car for precisely as long as it took to reach the bottom of the old quarry 10 miles out of town. Now they're all together in the same spot, one unfaithful partner and four individuals who stole a wife. I love my life, and I possess the proof that my beloved wife Peggy abandoned me for another man. On a significant day in August 2005, my girlfriend, an 18-year-old high school graduate, burst into our small two-room apartment. I couldn't believe my amazing fortune. Her lifelong aspiration to become an actress always seemed quite attainable to me, given her undeniable beauty and exceptional talent. This wasn't surprising, considering her lively cheerleading background and active involvement in various school drama productions throughout her academic years. With her entire future before her, the acting profession appeared a reachable goal. While my girlfriend had always been determined about pursuing an acting career, I was still contemplating my own life's direction. I wasn't particularly interested in university and was content working at McDonald's, letting my girlfriend take the lead. However, that day marked a turning point, filled with enthusiasm. She shared the news that she had secured a small part in a highly acclaimed blockbuster film. It was an incredible development. Though she only had 2 lines, it felt like a monumental stride towards achieving her dream. She explained that the main role in this fantastic opportunity was being played by a regular customer from Hooters restaurant. After promising her a part and even booking a flight to Street Vincent and the Grenadines, I unquestionably believed in the opportunity that had emerged. Despite my naivety, I avoided asking how she had managed to land such an incredible chance. That evening, we gathered with friends to celebrate this momentous occasion. Each moment drew us closer to Hollywood's glamour and grandeur. Eager to have me join her on this journey, she contacted a mysterious sponsor who generously purchased a ticket for me as well. Her joy was contagious, and I had never seen her so happy before. Upon arriving in Street Vincent and the Grenadines, we were met with luxury, checking into a lavish hotel for 4 days. It was a thrilling experience. While my girlfriend was busy with her scenes for 2 of those days, I didn't mind. I made the most of the chance, soaking up the ambiance of stunning beaches and basking in the warm sunshine. The remaining days felt like an uninterrupted holiday, filled with beach trips, lively gatherings, and even encounters with celebrities involved in the film's creation. It was like a dream come true. All of this served as motivation, fueling our desire for the glamorous lifestyle the film industry offered. Upon returning to Pennsylvania, we couldn't shake off that world's allure. We knew our path led to Los Angeles, where my friend could wholeheartedly chase her dreams in the film industry. Her time in Street Vincent and the Grenadines had allowed her to forge valuable connections with influential people. Furthermore, she strongly believed that upon our return to Pennsylvania, we should use the $15,300 she earned to embark on this incredible journey. Using a portion of her earnings from the film, we managed to secure a modest apartment in Los Angeles. Brimming with hope and anticipation, we were stepping into a new chapter of our lives. Days turned into months, and my girlfriend faced the difficult task of securing significant film roles in this bustling city. Every morning, she rose early and attended auditions, hoping for a long-awaited breakthrough. Unfortunately, she mostly found minor parts in local business advertisements that offered meager pay, falling short of our expectations. As her earnings from the movie role began to diminish, we found ourselves needing to invest in new clothes and photographs for auditions. Recognizing the need to support ourselves, I decided to take a job at a fast food establishment. It might not have been glamorous, but it gave us the chance to start earning money and sustain our existence. As our savings dwindled, I watched her hopes and dreams slowly fade in her eyes. Every evening, we returned home burdened by rejections and disappointments as she confronted the harsh realities and intense competition of the Los Angeles film industry. In our small Pennsylvania town, she had been considered the epitome of beauty, but in this expansive city, beauty was common. Months turned into nearly a year, and she still couldn't secure a substantial role for herself. The clothing she bought was now secondhand, and prospects for advancement seemed uncertain. Eventually, she took a job as a shopping mall model, a significant departure from our grand aspirations. Nevertheless, it allowed, albeit with difficulty, for the bills to be paid. During this period, I found my own direction as a fitness trainer, balancing 2 jobs, one at a restaurant and the other training many clients. I aimed to provide stability and support. Our lives were consumed by individual pursuits, and as a result, we rarely found time for each other. Our dreams of entertainment industry success seemed to be slipping away, overshadowed by our busy lives' demands. With each passing day, our dreams seemed to grow more distant. The unforgiving nature of the film and entertainment industry began to wear down my girlfriend's spirit, and I could only helplessly observe as she faced the harsh truth that achieving Hollywood success was far from the easy dream we had once envisioned. As time passed, her excessive spending completely drained our finances, and we began to struggle financially. I became increasingly frustrated with her for depleting our savings at an alarming rate. Finally, we managed to replenish our depleted funds. It happened unexpectedly when I was rummaging through her purse, searching for something, and discovered a bundle of $1,500. Intrigued, I couldn't help but ask where she had obtained such a large sum. She appeared flustered but explained that a photographer she met at the mall had invited her to take pictures at his luxurious mansion. I couldn't resist asking why she hadn't mentioned it earlier, to which she replied she had intended to but somehow forgot. Curiosity got the best of me, and I continued my questioning, wanting to ensure her earnings' legitimacy. She assured me everything was fine. However, as she spoke of her best photos and posing in various outfits for professional photographers, doubt began to enter my mind. Despite our naive understanding of the industry, I couldn't ignore suspicions about potential exploitation or hidden agendas. After all, we had heard tales of people in Hollywood willing to pay exorbitant amounts for almost anything. I grew curious and asked her to show me the pictures. To my surprise, she mentioned that producers rarely provided copies, and it would take some time before anything was known about the photo shoots. In my naivety, I accepted her explanation without exploring the matter further. This situation continued for the next 2 years. She frequently returned home late, attributing it to earning money by visiting clubs and occupying VIP sections. She often claimed her involvement in these projects was limited to gatherings in the VIP area. In other instances, she explained some producers preferred conducting auditions and shooting scenes at night. However, as her nocturnal excursions became more frequent, a sense of unease settled within me. Worries about her safety and company began to overwhelm me. She tried to ease my concerns, arguing she wasn't the only one doing such things and many of her friends were paid similarly, but suspicions lingered, causing me to question the reality of her actions. Over time, I began to notice the people she associated with, primarily individuals typically linked with the adult film industry. Yet in my naivety, I believed they were simply models. She defended herself by explaining she had no control over her work schedule, as producers dictated her whereabouts and tasks. I tried to logically assess the situation, convincing myself some producers might genuinely prefer nighttime shoots. All of this seemed to align reasonably with my limited understanding of the industry. One day, while taking a smoke break near our apartment, a crucial moment occurred that shattered my illusions. A man in a large SUV pulled up and dropped her off directly in front of our building. In that instant, my perspective on her nighttime adventures was challenged, leaving me stunned. Shocked by what I witnessed, I couldn't immediately confront her. Instead, I went inside and discreetly watched her through the blinds as she entered. Anxiety gripped me then. With a firm decision to uncover the truth, I secretly planned to follow her the next Friday when she went out. That Friday, she went on a date with her friends, and I quietly trailed her. She ended up at a club with a long queue outside. To my surprise, the club's promoter granted my girlfriend and her friends special access, allowing them to bypass the line and enter swiftly. In my quest for answers, I reluctantly bribed a bouncer generously to gain entry. Inside the club, I carefully scanned the crowd, desperately searching for her. Finally, I spotted her in the VIP section, chatting animatedly and enjoying drinks with her friends. It seemed to match her earlier explanation, and I stayed there for a while. As I grew tired and prepared to leave, doubts about the man in the SUV still bothered me. But those doubts quickly vanished when I realized it was just an Uber Black, and I felt foolish for suspecting betrayal. After scolding myself for being paranoid, I convinced myself everything was fine and returned to my normal routine. At the time, I worked as a fitness trainer and also engaged in multi-level marketing, selling dietary supplements and insurance. Thankfully, my average earnings covered rent and living expenses. When I took charge of managing my own finances, I couldn't help but notice changes in my girlfriend's behavior and appearance. She became more secretive about her financial matters, which raised concerns. Occasionally, she displayed aggression toward me, only to apologize later, claiming it was unintentional. Furthermore, She started hiding her finances and paid less attention to her spending, leaving me questioning her habits. Despite initially trying to dismiss these concerns, I couldn't ignore the significant decline in her financial stability. She began losing considerable weight, hardly ate, showed signs of extreme nervousness, and experienced sleep problems. She often slept for extended periods, causing me to worry about her health. In my attempt to address her issues, I made sure she ate properly, attributing her behavior to stress. However, one night as I woke up, I noticed she wasn't in our bed. Baffled, I followed the noise coming from the bathroom, driven by worry. To my horror, I discovered my girlfriend using an illegal substance in the bathroom. I stumbled upon a stash of illicit drugs which caught her by surprise. In a panic, she tried to hide everything but ended up spilling it on the floor. Her desperate actions to salvage the substances resembled a beggar clutching at scattered money. It marked a pivotal moment in our relationship. Overwhelmed by emotions, both of us broke down crying. She sincerely apologized and promised to seek help and undergo rehabilitation immediately. It felt as though she had traveled to Los Angeles but lost not only herself but also our connection along the way. Unflinchingly addressing her problems, she bravely kept her promise and checked into a rehabilitation center the very next day. Throughout her month-long stay at the clinic, she displayed genuine remorse and determination, clinging to the hope of overcoming this dark phase and reviving her dream. When she completed her rehabilitation program and returned home, she appeared revitalized and filled with new strength and resolve. A wave of relief washed over me. Her return was especially significant as my birthday approached. We had a tradition of going all out for each other's birthdays, always striving to outdo ourselves and create memorable celebrations. One day, she came home, casually tossing her purse next to me, and went to the bathroom. Curiosity got the better of me, and a few days before my birthday, I decided to search her bag. To my astonishment, I discovered a CD labeled Pilot. Excitement and anticipation surged through me. Without hesitation, I put it into the DVD player, eager to see its contents, anticipating it might be a surprise for me or perhaps footage of a screen test she attended. I was utterly shocked and filled with anger as the unexpected truth unfolded on the screen. The video showed my girlfriend engaging in intimate activities with another man. It was an image I could hardly comprehend. Overwhelmed by feelings, I stormed into the bathroom where she was showering, venting my anger and demanding an immediate explanation for her involvement in such actions. As she emerged from the shower, I noticed she was shaking, and she offered heartfelt apologies. She admitted that what I witnessed was initially meant as a one-time encounter, but had spiraled out of control. I could barely grasp her words. Confused and seeking clarity, I asked her how long she had been involved in this industry. Reluctantly, she confessed it had been ongoing for over a year. My confusion deepened when she struggled to provide an exact count of how many times she had participated in such activities, citing the frequency blurred the lines and made it hard to track. What struck me even more was that the dates and timestamps on the videos coincided with the period when I believed she was in a rehabilitation center, seeking help, not pursuing adult films for money. Determined to rebuild my life, I cut off all contact with my ex-girlfriend and focused on my career as a fitness trainer and my involvement in multi-level marketing. Unfortunately, the latter turned out to be a pyramid scheme that was eventually shut down by authorities, crushing my hopes. Undeterred, I decided to invest my savings in opening a gym. However, the high costs in California posed a significant challenge. Opting to join the Planet Fitness franchise, I seized the opportunity to open a small gym in my Pennsylvania hometown. Before leaving California, wanting to be transparent, I reached out to my ex-girlfriend to inform her of my departure. Despite our breakup 6 months earlier, our connection remained strong, and our phone conversations stirred emotions in both of us. She spoke of feeling abandoned, emphasizing that I had brought her to California and then left her when she needed me most. Her words left me speechless, and I found myself immersed in memories of our shared youth and the dreams we once held. Having made the choice to return to my hometown, I took the initiative to establish the Planet Fitness Center. As the business began to flourish, I also found comfort in close relationships that brought joy and fulfillment back into my existence. However, over time, I heard disturbing rumors that my ex-girlfriend had resorted to street-based solicitation to support her illegal substance use. Initially skeptical, I decided to investigate and discover the truth myself. What I uncovered left me utterly shocked. The person I once knew had become a mere shell, devoid of the vibrant soul I had cherished. About 2 years after my gym opened, the situation took an unexpected turn. Everything had been going smoothly for me. The membership at my gym kept growing, and it seemed life was on a positive path. But then, an unexpected and devastating piece of news reached me. My ex-girlfriend had passed away while with a client, having consumed an excessive amount of an illegal substance. The moment I received this heartbreaking information, chills ran down my spine and I rushed home, unable to control my emotions. I sat on the shower floor, overwhelmed by uncontrollable grief and tears. To this day, I still carry guilt and never stop wondering if I could have done something differently. Despite reassurances from my therapist, pain and regret continued to weigh heavily on my heart.